We're in a battle right now for our privacy and our liberty, and technology is the battleground. The thing is, most people still haven't seen it yet. They think that this fight is happening somewhere else, in Washington and courtrooms and some far off place. But it's happening in their pocket, on their phone, every single time they scan their face just to check their bank account. My guest today has spent over 20 years studying exactly how that happens. And here's the bigger picture that we have to keep in mind. For almost 100 years, there's been a plan to take away our liberty, not by force, but by slowly replacing our freedom with technology that watches, tracks, and controls. It's called technocracy. And piece by piece, that plan has been built through companies that look private on the surface, but were actually funded and shaped by the same government agencies that could never legally spy on you directly. The internet, Google, even Siri, all of it traces back to defense and intelligence money. So when a private company asks to scan your face just to open an app, that's not just a tech company being careful. That's a piece of a bigger plan falling into place. My guest today is Glenn Meter, the founder of the Privacy Academy. He watched what happened during the COVID lockdowns and realized a lot of that control wasn't really about a virus. It was about using technology to track and manage people. And that's what pushed him to start teaching everyday folks, not just tech experts, on how to protect themselves in this fight. So whether you're comfortable with computers or you still ask your grandkids for help setting up your phone, Glenn's going to walk us through why so many new online laws, ones that sound like they're about protecting children, might actually be pushing all of us towards giving up our privacy for good. Welcome to Man in America, a voice of reason in a world gone mad. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse. Now, before we start, please hit that like button. It really helps get this information out to more people. Please subscribe, share this with someone that needs it, and leave me your thoughts in the comments. Remember, every episode is done as a podcast and a video, so if you'd rather listen than watch, just find us on your favorite podcast app. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, a quick review helps us to reach even more people. All right, let's get in this conversation now with Glenn Meter. Glenn, it's great to have you back on the show. Thanks for giving us your time and being here with us today.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Glad to talk about this very important subject.
It's kind of wild because I don't know the exact date we had our last interview, but it might have been maybe a year ago or 8, 9, 10 months, something like that. And I feel like the awareness and the threat of privacy and technocracy and this digital control grid has it's amplified to something that I couldn't have imagined a year ago. And I think in a good way, it's something that people are talking about, whether it's flock cameras or data centers or AI. And so before we jump in, just give us a little bit of your background, because I think that when we're looking at the idea of technocracy and the digital system that's control grid, a lot of it comes down to one thing, which is privacy, right? Which is they are able to rule us off of the data they can collect from us. And so if we can limit the data they can collect, we can increase our freedom and increase our privacy. And so I think your background really fits into this. So I'll let you just introduce yourself and we'll dive in together.
Yeah. So I've been an entrepreneur for a very long time. And I love America. I've been a student of the Constitution, the Founding Fathers. And I've also been very involved in privacy and security for 20 plus years. And one of the things that I think I see things that a lot of people don't see just because of the history that I have and the perspective I have. And one of the things that I saw with COVID was this is not what they say it is. This is about locking people down, getting rid of their rights, and really controlling people on a technology basis. And that was really the first shot across the bow, or maybe the first attempt, or the first trial run, or whatever. So anyway, that's when we started Privacy Academy, because I wanted to. I just think it's very important that people understand how to protect themselves and their privacy moving forward, because it is becoming very, very, I think technology and privacy is really the battleground. I think this is the issue of our time. And this, I was just at Freedom Fest, and it's a great it's a great group of people. It's a great event, but I was really kind of disappointed at the level of understanding that the people there have about the attack on our liberty is coming through technology. I mean, I had to go through and explain it to a lot of people, and there were a lot of people that just didn't seem to have any awareness of it, which is surprising to me. And we really do have to raise people's awareness of this issue, and we have to understand that this is how the attack on liberty is happening.
I think it's definitely caught a lot of people off guard. And
yeah,
I think there's also a lot of people that really believe that getting Trump back in, especially for his second term, that he was going to really work to bring America much, much closer to the Constitution. And I think there's certain ways that he has. However, when you're looking at the Fourth Amendment, you're looking at freedom of speech, you look at some of those core principles, there's some pretty blatant things going on. And I think that from what I've kind of come full circle to is I really think that if you looked at how all the tech bros in the Silicon Valley figureheads, Zuckerberg and Bezos and Palantir, a lot of these companies, how closely they aligned to Trump right as he was kind of approaching the election, right, for this his second term. And what I think that we're witnessing, and then Musk obviously is being central to this, is I think that what we're witnessing is a technocratic coup. I think that we're witnessing our government going from whatever system it was before, moving into a very digitized system. And alongside of this, we're seeing the data centers going up everywhere, the flock cameras, the AI, just completely everything booming in this particular sector. And so coming from your background in online privacy and trying to counter the digital overreach of a government, what do you see? Do you see any red flags under the current administration? Like, what are you watching, and what's standing out to you as a concern?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is right. The thing that bothers me is that MAGA had a lot of really good ideals, and then it was just bent. It was, it's always spun different ways. And the people that follow Trump just kind of bend with him. And that's really disappointing. And I think one of the problems with Americans is that our fight for liberty is really our fight for our guy, and I don't think that's how it should be. We need to stand up for liberty ourselves on a local level and on the state level. And that's how the Constitution is written. The Constitution, 10th Amendment, decentralized power structures. We have to take care of this ourselves and stand up for this ourselves, and not just rely on our guy. There's no one that's going to save us from this. And maybe this is a good transition into another topic here. But one of the things that's really blown me away is how people are buying into this story about the online child safety law. And so these online child safety laws are coming in all states. All states are passing these laws, but it's also being passed by Congress and Senate, and Trump will sign it. And it's a really very dangerous law. It's not about protecting kids. And the thing that blows me away is just, okay, we've just gone through this whole Epstein thing, and we can see that these people are hiding. I mean, they're just hiding in plain sight what they do. They're not getting prosecuted or anything like that. These people in Congress are either hiding them or they are the Epstein perpetrators, right? And then we're trusting them to pass these online child safety laws. They don't care about our kids. They don't care about that stuff. It's not about protecting kids. And so it's a little bit disappointing to me that people through it all are still looking to the government to solve these problems. Because I was just talking to at Freedom Fest, actually, I talked to Rand Paul for a few minutes, and I talked about this, and he said the problem is if you go against, you being him, if a senator or legislator goes against the online child safety law, he says we get a flood of calls from organizations and people on the ground saying, don't you care about kids? How can you not pass this? All of that stuff. And so that's on us. We have to learn about this stuff and what it really is. And we have to stop it.
Here's an uncomfortable question. Why should your messaging app need to know anything about you? Most of us have already accepted that technology companies collect enormous amounts of information: what we click, where we go, what we buy, and who we interact with. That information is valuable because your attention is valuable. Keat takes a radically different approach. So Keat is a free messaging, file sharing, and video calling app built peer-to-peer. So there's no centralized company database that's holding on to your conversations. There's no metadata tracking and no phone number or email are even required to use it. Your messages are end-to-end encrypted and move between the people in the conversation. Your private life shouldn't be another crop in somebody else's data farm. So to get this today, visit keat.io/maninamerica. That's Keat, which is KEET.io/man in America. So download it free, invite one person that you trust, and start a conversation that belongs to you, not some big data harvesting company. One thing I'd also like just to throw out, and I want to continue down the line of the child safety law, is that you're talking about the Constitution, right? And what it means to, basically to take responsibility for our own freedom and liberty and independence. And one of the tricky things that I've seen happening is that the Constitution clearly limits the powers, especially of the federal government, with surveilling its citizens and, et cetera. Yet, what I see happening is that there's all these private companies that aren't really private companies. I think that they're actually they're just fronts for the military-industrial complex. They're, whether you're looking at the internet itself, right, which came out of DARPA's own labs, or Facebook, is it LifeLog from the DARPA? You look at In-Q-Tel, CIA, the funding going into these massive companies. And so I think that this is the tricky part of where we're sitting in history, is that it's not that necessarily that the government itself is building a surveillance network, but it's that this front of companies that we're knowingly using and signing every terms of agreement update. Who's reading through those things? Hey, new update to your Facebook terms and conditions. Okay, check. Where do I sign? So I think that's the tough part, is that we're voluntarily handing over all this data and information to these companies, which are really just, it's a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? It's a government pretending to be a sheep, where it's actually, we're a private company. And that gets us in a really, really difficult place constitutionally. And I think it really is a crisis.
Well, I think it's pretty clear what we need to do is we need to say any government, any company that's colluding with the government should be considered part of the government. I mean, that's something that we can do on the state level. But what you're saying is exactly right, because this happened in England actually recently, a couple months ago. Apple initiated on its own, it initiated biometric verification, basically the online child safety law, which is basically biometric verification, or you were locked out of the internet. And this happened a couple months ago. And that was not actually an order, at least publicly. It was not in any law or anything like that. They, at least publicly, the government did not give Apple any order to do this. There was no law that says, okay, Apple has to do this. So Apple did it on their own to force its users to have biometrics. And so it is absolutely a collusion between big tech and Big Brother. And I just think that we have to, I think it's just a very simple thing. If it's a company that is being paid for and working on behalf of the government, they should be considered part of the government. And that should be held. They should be held to that standard on the state level, on the local level, and
So these child safety laws, and I want you to explain this more in detail, but am I correct in understanding that one of the holy grails of a technocracy would be to completely eliminate anonymous usage of the internet, right?
Exactly.
So where right now I can go and I can open, I'm sure it's still being monitored, you know what I mean? But I can open up a private browser. I don't have to, verify my ID before I go on there, and I can go on there and I can search for things, whether it's political stuff or, who knows what, alternative health, etc. And so, do you think that it's a central part of a technocratic control grid to basically do what Apple has just done, right? To force people to remove any element of anonymity, right? When they're looking, when they're visiting the internet. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they do not want us to be anonymous. They do not want us to be private. They want total control, total surveillance, and total surveillance and then total control. And this is what gives it to them. And so they have to see what we look at. They have to see what we read, what we post on, everything that we do, which then allows the AI to then control us. So what these online child safety laws is it's basically the cover is, okay, we're going to, we want to protect kids from porn, or we want to protect kids from social media, whatever. Again, they don't care about kids. It's not about that. But in order to verify that you're under 16, everybody has to verify who they are. And they want it done biometrically. What is not being said is what they're doing is they're behind the scenes, they're rewiring the internet. They're putting gatekeepers in the internet. And so what's going to happen is Apple biometrically verifies, okay, this is Glenn Meter, and he goes to this site. And what he's going to do is Apple will then rubber stamp, okay, this is Glenn Meter, confirmed, going to this site. This is the article he's looking at. This is how much time he spent on it. This is where he commented on it. Every single thing will be tracked and verified to my biometrics that this is me on the web. And so if you think about it, what relies on anonymity and privacy? Well, we need to be able to research whatever we want to research without concern of repercussions coming to us. We need to say what we want to say without fear of repercussions. If there's a whistleblower, the whistleblower needs to know that they can communicate or release stuff anonymously without reprisal. That's the core of freedom of the press. And so all of these things, freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of research, freedom of press, all of these things rely on our ability to be anonymous and private when we do things, plus our ability to transact with other people. That's we don't need approval. We don't need anyone seeing what we do. That's our business. If I interact with you, if I transact with you, that's my business. That's mine and your business. That's not the government's business. It's not a permission-based thing, but they're turning our rights into permissions and controls. And it's just going to be hardwired into how we live our lives soon. And so it's not going to be based on laws. It's going to be just based on this is how it is. And so we have to stop this. I think it's very important.
And I guess in addition to that, what role does this play in some sort of social credit system, right? Because I know that in China, for instance, when everything is done through your WeChat app that is tied to your banking, tied to your social credit system, obviously you have to verify that you're the person using it. They can programmatically adjust whatever they want to. They can say, okay, well, Glenn, you're no longer allowed to buy train tickets because you're on a non-travel, kind of type ban. Or they might say, well, Glenn, you're not allowed to look at those websites about the failures of communism, right? Or whatever it is, because we've been flagged as having this kind of activity. And so do you think that that's like part of this stage of hiding with the good intentions. They do it all the time, right? Oh, this is to protect kids. Everyone, hey, you all love talking about how important the kids are. You love calling, out the Epstein stuff. So, hey, everyone should get behind this act, right? This is for the kids. But of course, there's Trojan horses everywhere with what they do. So do you think that the forcing the verification to even access the internet, do you think that plays right into a social credit system?
Absolutely. It is absolutely essential. And, what we do is what they have, how they're presenting this to us is pieces of the puzzle. So there's flock cameras. There's this new thing with the cars where they have the automatic shutdown. But it's not just automatic shutdown, it's total surveillance internally in the car. They're able to track everything that we do, everything we say. They're able to watch us. They're able to limit where we go, how far we go, all of that stuff. The controls that are in cars now are they have total control over us now. And so anyway, my point is, these are all the pieces of the puzzle, and we fight back against flock. But then they come back with another name of a camera. It's a different name. It's a different type of surveillance, whatever. So we're fighting the pieces instead of the whole picture. We have to look at what the whole picture is that comes together with this. And this is so basically what it comes down to is digital ID combined with online digital ID. Those are the anchor points, right? And then you have AI. AI is the management of the whole social credit system. So in the past with tyranny, what you've always had is the bottleneck of tyranny has always been the enforcement. The number of people that are required to enforce people. It always makes communism and tyranny top heavy, because you've just got so many people for enforcement that that they just get top heavy and fall over. But now they have AI. AI will enforce it with everybody all at once with no manpower. It'll be instantaneous. And then you add in CBDCs, which is our programmable money. And so they can penalize or reward us anytime they want to. Then you've got the control aspect of the cars, the ability to travel, the ability to pay for whatever. All of that together is what the social credit system is. And then they can totally control you. They can say, okay, you're listening to, you're watching, you're getting your news from so-and-so podcaster, Seth Wholehouse, so you're going to get penalized for that. And so they have all of these controls. They're just building them all up. And we don't see the whole pieces. We just see we see the pieces of the puzzle, or some of them, but we don't see what they're all coming together for.
And that's an important thing, because I think that oftentimes they want us to focus on the pieces. They want us to focus on the tree, so you don't see the forest. And so now looking at these online, like there's various terms for them, right? The Kids Online Safety Act. There's been a variety of these that have happened, both at the state level and at the federal level. So am I correct in understanding that basically the idea is the internet can be a dangerous place, and we want to protect the children that might just walk in, and before you know it, they're at some dangerous location. It's kind of like Times Square after midnight. You don't want kids wandering around there, because there's the hooker on the corner, there's the crack dealer over there, and so kind of like they're framing it. Okay, well, there's a lot of bad stuff on the internet that they've allowed and propped up, that's a different story. But are they saying that we need to verify every user on the internet, because we can't just say, okay, if you're a kid, you need to be verified, right? There's no way, how do you know they're a kid? It's like, well, they're going to force you to upload your ID or whatever. And so do you think that they're using this as a way to basically bring in something like what you mentioned that happened over in the UK, where that to protect the children from bad things, we're now going to require every adult to verify, biometrically verify through fingerprint, through face scan, etc., that we're going to basically do away with anonymous access to the internet because that's going to help the children. Is that kind of what it is?
That's coming. That's coming. And they're doing it so that it will be on the device level. So the devices, so this is again where they're working with Google and Microsoft and Apple to do this. And yeah, it's very sneaky, it's very devious, and that's exactly what they're doing. And really what it comes down to, I was just at G. Edwards Red Pill Expo, and if you look at G. Edwards' writing, he's got a book called The Chasm, and The Chasm is a free ebook if anyone wants to look it up online. But it talks about, forget about Republican, Democrat, conservative, progressive, all of that stuff. It's all about individualism versus collectivism. And the collectivists believe that we have the excuse for capitalism is always the greater good. We have to do this for the greater good. And there's always this group supremacy where you have to sacrifice your rights for the good of, some group. And that's really what we have turned into as a society, or what they're trying to turn us into. We have to stand up for liberty and the principles of liberty and the principles of individual liberty. And one of the other differences between collectivists and individualists is that individualists believe that our rights come from God, or that our rights are inherent. If you don't believe in God, at least our rights are inherent in who we are, which means that the government doesn't have the authority to infringe upon those rights. The collectivists believe that our rights are granted to us by government and they can be taken away by the government. And everything can happen for the greater good. And this is if you look at communism, how you can justify anything with a greater good argument. You can justify killing groups of people, enslaving groups of people. You can justify anything with the greater good argument. And so we have to stand up for the principles that America was based on, which is the individual liberty.
And so in terms of how to actually stand up, it's been encouraging to see these city council meetings where all the residents are there opposing a data center or opposing flock cameras. And you've seen that that's actually had an effect. It's not just some charade. It's legitimately stopped billions of dollars in data center development. It's removed flock cameras and even any other Axon or any other kind of license plate reader cameras. And so that has an effect. But I also feel like that you can be missing the point with that, right? Kind of, you can't see the forest through the trees. So you might get really focused on flock cameras, but then realize that you miss the fact that every flock camera that is being replaced by an Axon camera, or and they do that all the time, right? It's a very simple human control tactic, right? Hey, focus over here while I move in on the behind you and flank you from the side. And so when it comes to this, in particular, say like the Online Safety Acts for this, which seems to be a very well thought through mechanism for bringing in a mandatory, kind of verification, ID verification for internet usage.
Yep.
How do you fight back against this? Like, how do you resist this? What can you do?
Yeah. So the first thing is to become aware. And so we have a 5-step plan for fighting back. So step one is to become aware. And so that is become aware of what the real issues are. Also, but part of becoming aware is making sure that you're not being controlled. Because if you search the web on Google, well, Google is controlling what you are seeing. And so you have to de-Google yourself. So that's part of the whole become aware thing. The second point is get your own house in order, get your own privacy, all of that stuff in order, really understand what it means, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Founding Fathers' writings. But then the third point is share. Fourth point is act locally. We have to act locally for this stuff. And then the fifth point is to after we've done everything we can do, just trust in God and just live your life, the best life you can live. Don't live in fear. And so going back to your point there, I love that people are standing up to Flock and the AI data centers. And I think they're doing a great job. I think there's just one slight change that I would make to the way people are doing this. And that is, it's not about, we can't just focus on the individual issue. We have to also focus on the principle of liberty and the principles of liberty, the principles that privacy is essential for all of these other rights that we have. And so when you're standing up for Flock, also stand up for our right to privacy and really educate yourself. Because one of the things that I would recommend is that people look up the story of the writ of assistance, because the writ of assistance, going back to the founding of the Declaration of Independence, this was one of the core reasons that that the Declaration of Independence happened, is the writ of assistance, which is Sam Adams was in a courtroom watching this argument. It was James Otis stood up for 5 hours arguing against what was called the writ of assistance. And the writ of assistance was a blanket warrant that the British soldiers had to search anyone at any time for any reasons without cause. And James Otis stood up there for 5 hours arguing against this. And Sam Adams said that this is where the child independence was born. And this was really the core thing that set off the whole thing about the need for the revolution, actually, is this search warrant that they could inflict upon us at any time. And that's what we have now. You know, these online child safety laws, the online surveillance that they're doing on us, the other types of surveillance, the Flock cameras, this is what really, going back to the beginning of the founding of the US, this is what really spurred the revolution. And so anyway, that was, I go on these rants, but that was, I think people have to keep that in perspective when they stand up for stand up against Flock cameras, data centers, all of that stuff.
I'm really glad that you brought this up, because this is new to me. And so right here, this is just a Britannica summary, right? This is the writ of assistance,
Yep.
where it says that in English and American colonial history, a general search warrant issued by superior provincial courts to assist the British government in enforcing trade and navigation laws. Such warrants authorized custom house officers with the assistance of a sheriff, justice of the peace, or constable, to search any house for smuggled goods without specifying either the house or the goods. And so you can see that it's the same thing, basically, right? Where here, I'm guessing that this was born out of a reaction to people trying to evade taxes, right? So they were, the import taxes that were, again, it led to the Tea Party and some of these things. But that people were saying, okay, well, there's this tyrannical system that's forcing me to pay these taxes, yet they don't deserve this money. And so I'm going to get outside that system. And so they then use that as an excuse for some blanket search warrant. Basically, as you can see what it says there, and I can imagine it. It's like, oh, well, hey, old Billy over there, I think he's got a couple of muskets. He might be a threat. He's part of that militia. He might have some muskets. It's like, okay, let's get the local, sheriff or whatever it is. Let's go do a search, and we'll say, hey, we're going to look for you, the fact that you're smuggling sugar, right? And again, that might be their same excuse. And what we're seeing here is it's the same thing. It's just in the future, where you look at Flock cameras. It's like almost. It's like pre-crime almost, like what they're getting into. It's like, oh, well, they're arresting people. They're pulling them over at gunpoint because their camera might have thought that person's license plate was for a stolen car. But how do you know? What if it was this person was an online commentator and he was questioning the government too much, and so then they pull him over because of a Flock camera supposedly, and they can use it to target him. But it's interesting what you kind of mentioned, that this writ of assistance was that that was part of the foundational things that led to the revolution. And I feel like that now we've almost got rid of assistance for every single thing possible, that they're reading our email, they're reading our text messages, they're listening to our conversations through our phones, through our cameras, they're tracking our GPS movement, they're using things like Signal Trace that can detect, oh yeah, this person who has these AirPods and that smartwatch just drove by this location. I mean, it just seems like the amount of invasion into our own privacy has become so exponentially out of proportion, I think, than what the founders would have ever imagined possible. If you could go back in time and buy oil before the world relied on it, would you? Of course you would. Anyone would. So why aren't you buying silver right now? You see, the people who recognized oil early didn't just make money. They got ahead of one of the biggest economic shifts in history. And today, a similar opportunity is unfolding with silver, because silver is a lot more than just a precious metal. It's a critical resource used in solar panels, electric vehicles, defense systems, AI infrastructure, and even these massive data centers that are powering our digital world and the surveillance grid. So while demand keeps growing, it's actually still affordable enough that the average American can start accumulating it right now. And that's why investors are turning to silver to protect against inflation and own one of the world's most important strategic resources. Don't be the person who looks back in 10 years and says, I saw it coming, but I just didn't act. I'm sorry. So visit goldwithseth.com and learn just how easy it is to own physical silver. Again, that's goldwithseth.com. And here's something a little bit extra. If you just mention my name when you reach out to Noble Gold, they're going to send you a 1/10 ounce of gold coin just as a thank you when you open a new qualified account. So again, that's goldwithseth.com.
What we're in right now is basically that point where we were before the revolution, where, like I said, with the writ of assistance, they didn't even need an excuse to search you. I mean, they could just come in your house and basically tear apart everything. And they didn't need a reason. They didn't need anything. And this is what I'm saying is one of the core principles of our society is we believe that you're innocent until proven guilty. And mass surveillance flips that on its head. One of the other principles is that we own this country. Our representatives answer to us. We don't answer to them. They're not our rulers. And so really what we should do, I saw something funny on Twitter the other day, or X, where somebody said, we should have flat cameras watching the legislators, the governor of the state, all of this stuff. They should be the ones under surveillance, not us. We're their boss. And so that's another principle that we have to stand up for. And yeah.
And so in terms of the more practical how-tos, I know that literally you have an entire academy in teaching this. What can people do? I mean, it seems like, look, if you're over in the UK and all of a sudden you see a pop-up from your phone, your iPhone updated overnight, and you now have to use facial recognition to access the internet app, you're kind of up the creek without a paddle. But what are practical things that people can do to resist this?
Yeah, there are very real things that you can do to get private. That's what I want to say first of all, because a lot of people just say our privacy is gone. There's no way to fight it back. But that's not true. There are definite ways that you can fight back to this and keep yourself private and secure. De-Googling yourself is one of the very important things. Anything Google, get it out of your life. Stop using the Chrome browser. Stop using Google search. Stop using an Android phone. But iPhone's not the solution either. I guess one of the other points that I would make is, one of the things that people do when they decide to get private is they just kind of go headfirst into this and dive into it. And then they realize there's a lot to do, actually. And they get overwhelmed with, do I do this and this? And how do I do this? And and they just kind of throw up their hands and say, I can't do this. I'm not techy enough to do this. But that's not true. It's just that they have done it the wrong way, and they're trying to do too much too fast. And so what we do with Privacy Academy is, okay, do this, just this one thing. So we break it down into a bite-sized piece. Don't look at anything else. Don't think about anything else. Just do this. And then once you do that, okay, now just do this. Now just do this, and just keep moving forward. And don't try to do too much at once. Just have patience with yourself, move forward, and you will get to the point where you are really quite private and secure. And that's really the best formula for this, is just take your time, but keep moving forward, and just do the things the right way.
And so you give a lot of free webinars, right? That's a big part of, I think, of what you do. Is you obviously this conversation is meant to educate people, right? We're kind of hitting that point one, right? Just be aware of what's happening, and that's a lot of the purpose. That's a lot of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Is I'm trying my best just to, kind of be the watchman on the wall and saying, hey, there's a problem coming. Okay, like look, there's a problem. We can do something about it. And whereas most people are just, I guess, kind of blind to a lot of the problems. I think these days less so. And so, but walk us through, because I know that you've got a webinar coming up. It's a free webinar, right? Walk us through. Actually, I'll pull up the page for it, and the link will be in the description as well. It's just privacyacademy.com/man in America. And again, that link will be in the description as well. But what will people walk away from after going through this free webinar?
Yeah, so what we do is, it is an educational webinar. And so the first thing that we do is we talk you through really what's going on, and really kind of frame it in a way that you understand what's coming your way, but also frame it in a way that, yes, this is something that we can stand up to, and we can protect ourselves from. Then we go through five things that you can do right now. And they are really powerful things that you can do right now to get private and secure. And then we go into a section where I show there's a bigger perspective here about what's going on. We talk about the 3 threats. So there's really what you and I have talked about today is big tech and big brother, and how they're colluding. But there's another threat there, and that's hackers and scammers. Hackers and scammers are really dangerous. And I'll just tell you, last week, I stopped my father from getting scammed. It was just coincidence that my wife went over there at one point. He's 85. My wife went over there to pick up our nieces to take them out for ice cream. And she heard him on the phone, and he was on the phone with support, and he had been hacked, and he was very, very, very anxious and very upset. And he'd been on the phone for apparently over an hour. And she called me and said, you got to call your father because something's up. And I called up my mother. She was right there. And I said, what's going on? And she said, he's on the phone with Apple support. And I said, no, he's not. Hang up the phone right now. And, he was in this bubble. He was talking to them, so he didn't hang up right away. So I just said, put me on speakerphone. Let me hear what he's saying. And he was talking about, you got to go down to Home Depot and buy some gift cards, $14,000 worth of gift cards, and then send them off to, wherever. And when you hear that, it's like, that's ridiculous. How could anyone think that is real, right? But when you're in the moment with these scammers, they create this bubble of illusion that you get stuck in. It's kind of like the whole COVID thing, where they get your emotions worked up so that your brain doesn't think. And so anyway, I'm going off on another rant here, but I basically just said, hang up the phone right now. You've got to hang up, because these are scammers. They've got you on the line. And I could tell that he was very agitated with this afterwards. But this is very real, and they're being super powered by AI. Scammers and hackers are being super powered by AI. Very, very dangerous. And not only that, but the more information that the big tech and big brother collect about us, that means that scammers and hackers that's a great honeypot for the scammers and hackers to get information about us. And so the scammers and hackers love it when these government and big tech collect more data about us. So we've just got to, it's a whole thing that you've got to protect yourself from. This is a new world. And this is really the thing that we've got to, this is a very important part of our world that we've got to protect ourselves from.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a new battlefront. I mean, it's like if you're living in a certain region and there's a neighboring tribe that can come attack you at night, then you put out watch guards and you fortify your defenses for that. But now there's a war being waged over this little screen, and like you said with your father. And I'm quite kind of sharp at avoiding online scams and everything. But even me, I'm surprised sometimes at just how advanced they've become. And I think we're just seeing the beginning of it. I mean, we're going to have, you're going to get a call from your wife one day that's going to sound like her, come from her phone number. And she's like, hey, Glenn, honey, I forgot, what's the ATM passcode again? I'm in a little bit of an issue right now. And you'll think you're talking to your wife. I mean, these things, I'm already seeing stories of this same exact stuff happening.
Yep. No, that's exactly right. And that's called the deepfake scams, and that is AI powered, and it is, like I said, it's changing the whole scammer landscape, and it will never go back. I mean, this is changed forever now on. And what it does is, and these deepfakes can be video calls too. So it can be a video call of me or you or whatever. If I'm doing a video call with you, how do you know it's actually me? And there's been a lot of businesses that have been scammed out of a lot of money. There was a Hong Kong bank that got scammed out of $25 million because of a deep fake video conference call with their client.
Yeah,
it wasn't their clients. It was the CEO, the CIO, the CFO, and CTO and all that stuff on a conference call with this bank, and it wasn't any of them.
Crazy.
So
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So let me bring up the webinar one more time. So the link, again, it'll be in the description, privacyacademy.com/man in America. And do people just, how does it work? You just you select the time, right? This is the time it's at. And you just drop your name in there, and that's it? Your name and your email?
And then we'll send you a link to that, and it'll be a good training class, and I think you'll learn a lot from it. And when you get the link for it, I would, please share it with other people. Please share it, have other people. We got to raise the awareness of people. And so anyone that you know that would be open to this, please share that with them.
Okay, well, good. So there's the homework for those of you that are watching and listening. Well, Glenn, thank you again for giving us your time today. Thank you also for doing a lot of the educational stuff that you're doing. I've heard feedback from your classes, and it's real, actionable information, and it's taught to be accessible. It's not overcomplicated for people. You're really kind of meeting people where they're at and walking them through in a way that's not overwhelming, which is important, especially for people that are already overwhelmed by technology, like your father and the older generations that are already feel like they've got nothing in this battle that just is advancing so quickly.
Yeah, so that's our specialty, is to really talk to non-techie people. And I was doing a one-on-one with one of our clients a couple of weeks ago, and she's a lady. She was like over 70 years old, and she just wanted to have a one-on-one to talk about a specific issue. But then before we got off, I said, okay, now let me just give you a quick quiz. Are you doing this? Are you doing this, this? And we just went through a whole list of things that we talk about. She said, yes, I'm doing that. I'm doing all of those things. And I said, that's awesome. You are more private and more secure than 99.999% of people on the planet. And I would even include a lot of people that are IT people. don't necessarily know this stuff. So, they really, and she says, wow, I had no idea that I have done all that much. So it was pretty cool to see just this regular lady that really had mastered this stuff. So,
which that's encouraging. Yeah, that's really encouraging. Well, Glenn, thank you again. I always enjoy talking to you, and I encourage people again to make sure you register for the free webinar. You've got, I think within the day that we're publishing this, I'm not sure how soon, but it'll be within a week or so of the class. So you've got time to set aside that window. If people miss the actual webinar time itself, is there a way that if they sign up ahead of time, they get a replay access to it?
Sure. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We will have a replay. Yep.
Okay. Great. All right. Great. Well, I guess no excuses then.
Yeah, I do encourage people to join us live though, because then you can ask us questions. We'll have a whole Q&A section, and just ask us any question that you want to ask us and we can answer that.
Okay, perfect. Well, Glenn, thanks again. It's good catching up with you again. Thank you for what you're doing, and take care.
All right, take care.
And I recommend that literally right now, go to preparewithmia.com. So prepare with MIA, Man in America, preparewithmia.com. Here's why. So with all of these news headlines that are distracting us, which not what I'm trying to cover, but a lot of us is being covered in the world, there are some really real problems that are happening, right? So just looking at the story of the conflict in the Middle East right now, it's genuinely threatening the global food supply with fertilizer shortages, spiking energy and transportation costs. And we haven't really felt the impact, but when it hits, it'll be too late to react then. Look, I'm a big believer in preparing now for what the future might bring. I'd rather be, 5 years early than one day late with these kinds of things. And that's why I've always talked about the importance of preparing. And so I've partnered with My Patriot Supply, which you see here on the website, because they're fantastic. One of the best in the business. They've helped millions of Americans prepare for almost 20 years now. And I want you to join them by picking up one of their best-selling 4-week emergency food supply kits. It's at preparewithmia.com. Again, this is just a 4-week supply. If this is the only thing you have, if you can just get this 4 weeks in, you're good. Of course, it's better to have 8 weeks or 12 weeks, but let this be like your baseline. Hit that 4-week number. And to say thank you, My Patriot Supply is offering you a second kit at half the price. So it's buy one, get one, 50% off. So these kits deliver 2,000 calories per day with long-lasting, shelf-stable meals. They're easy to store, simple to prepare. And look, I know it's easier to just ignore what's going on in the world, but if you think about how much you're going to feel better knowing that you're prepared instead of hoping that everything will turn out fine, it's a much better place to be. So don't wait. It's preparewithmia.com. Go check it out today. Get one of those food kits. Get the second one half off. And now you've got 8 weeks for the price of 1.5 kits.